It is that time of the year, guys. Football is coming. Between the Whistles, Detroit, we will have all your football for the whole season. And today we're going to be talking about the Michigan State Spartans, as you can see the green lights in the background. So there's a lot of articles out there about the pressures mounting from Mel Tucker. And look, I get the premise of the situation. Like he does need to make a bowl game. He does need to get better this year because honestly, like the way that they played last year can't happen again, especially the coaching gaps, the inconsistent play, especially the special teams. I mean, the kicking was awful. They could have won the Indiana game, but they just couldn't kick to save their lives. And I'm pretty sure they could have went to Okamos and got a kid from there to kick a 25-yard field goal, and he probably would have made it. So when we look at Michigan State, we have to ask ourselves one thing. And the one thing is, what is success for Michigan State this year in 2023? We obviously know that they need to make a bowl game. That's my personal success. I think if you're asking any more, it could be a little bit, higher ladder. And I think the ceiling for me is like that they win 9 games. That'd be a ceiling for me. I think that could be a really good year for them and they could build off that. I'm not asking them to win, 12-0 and win the Big Ten. Like that's just not the reality right now because you're still building a program and you still need a little bit of time. So obviously we know what Mel Tucker came into. So Mel Tucker came into the COVID year. You can't recruit during COVID except over Zoom. Which how are you going to recruit a kid to come to East Lansing over Zoom? That's a really hard thing to do. They get Kenneth Walker, and Kenneth Walker was a generational type player. He really hit a lot of holes that you didn't really see before. And you seen it the year after he left with Peyton Thorne. Like Peyton Thorne really reaped the benefits of having a guy like Kenneth Walker. And when the running game wasn't there for Michigan State, Peyton Thorne was asked to do more than he really could have. I mean, sometimes you ask quarterbacks like for a long time, like being the Lions guy, I talk to about the Lions all the time. Whenever you talk about the Detroit Lions, you talk about Matthew Stafford with the Detroit Lions. One of the things that you always ask is, if you got him a run game, what would happen? And we didn't know because they never got him a run game. And with Peyton Thorne, we've seen what happened when he had a run game. But when he didn't have a run game, he was a different quarterback. Now, schematically, like if I'm a coach coaching against Michigan State on the defensive side, it opens up more possibilities because you don't really have to respect the run because they really didn't run the ball that great last year for Michigan State. So you're constantly making him throw in tight windows. You're constantly making him throw jump balls to Keon Coleman. And the loss of Keon Coleman, that's pretty big, but that was pretty expected because obviously his comments in the wintertime pretty much showcased that he didn't want to be here. So look, you lose Peyton Thorne, you lose Keon Coleman, you lose Jaden Reed. Those are 3 big losses on the offensive side. The defensive side looks a little bit better. So that's encouraging. What you're hoping for is all these good players that they've recruited in the last 2 recruiting cycles on the offense really pay off. You get Trey Mosley back. You're going to get Jalen Berger back. Hopefully he can be better. Hopefully the offensive line can be better. But ultimately what we're looking for Michigan State is just to be consistent. You don't want to fall in, purgatory. There's been a lot of money sunk into the Michigan State football program. There's been a lot of money sunk into Mel Tucker, the football facility that they're building, and there's just been a lot of money sunk into Michigan State football overall. So for you not to make a bowl game would be a total failure. It'd be a total failure. Like we could talk about all the time about how Michigan State, they're little brother. They're a top 25 revenue producing program. So the whole thing about them being a little brother is just a little bit overtoned because I know there's going to be Michigan fans that are watching this because they like to watch things of their rival. And when you look at Michigan State, they just need to get better. And you could look at Mel Tucker and look at the mess he inherited. I mean, most of the kids that transferred out of the program went to MAC programs. So, I mean, that tells you where the talent level was when he came in. Did it get much better? No, because when you get guys like Scarborough and you get guys, tear offs from programs that, They didn't want him either. That's what you get. I mean, yeah, once you get a Kenneth Walker, once you get a Jaden Reed, but then you get a guy like, name some of the cornerbacks that they got that were supposed to be good that never turned out to be good. So this is going to be a big year for Michigan State because, like, I just need them to make a bowl game. I just need them to be sufficient. I need them to be a 500 team because, like, you look at it and you go, this Michigan State team could be better. They could be better. It's all going to depend on if Mel Tucker makes the same mistakes he made last year. Because if you watched last year, there was times last year where the coaching gaffes were unbelievable. There was a lot of coaching gaffes. So you looked at that and you go, okay, this guy has a lot to learn. When you are a coach and you're winning, a lot of people can overlook those coaching gaffes. Like when Jim Harbaugh started to win, a lot of people overlooked the coaching gaffes until it cost them a game. Like, for instance, like when they did the Philly special in the playoff, people were pretty pissed about that, but they were in the playoff. It didn't matter. They won the Big Ten. When you're Michigan State and you're Mel Tucker and you're barely scraping by and you have a chance to win against Indiana in Spartan Stadium and you just coaching error after coaching error and you were lucky to win the Illinois game because there was another coaching error, that's the things that people look at and they talk about you. So Mel Tucker needs to learn a lot about the game of coaching and the coaching decisions that he makes. What he needs to do is he needs to talk to Dan Campbell from the Detroit Lions because Dan Campbell was making the same dumbass mistakes all the time. You make this. Let's go for it on fourth down. No, you're not. The possibilities are not good for you. Probabilities are not good for you. We saw what Mel Tucker did in some of these games, and that is some of the things that are. If you're not a Mel Tucker fan, you're like, that's what I'm talking about. And if you're a Mel Tucker fan, you're like, oh my God, dude, come on. Like, come on. So look, when I look at this Michigan State team, I think they will be pretty damn good. I think they'll be pretty good. I think they'll get over 500, I think. I think Noah Kim could be really, I think he could be a better player than most people realize. I like the way he throws the ball. It's going to rely on the run game. The run game is huge in the Big Ten because you look at the running backs in this Big Ten, there's a lot of good running backs, and you win games because of your running backs. The passing games, they do help. They absolutely do help. But take a look at some of these Big Ten teams that have, like look at Michigan, right? They got Donovan Edwards, they got Blake Corum, two great running backs. Ohio State got Travion Henderson and Myron Williams. You look at Wisconsin, Braylon Allen. You look at Penn State, Singleton, and the one kid, the freshman. There's a lot of running backs in this league. And running backs really help your quarterbacks and they help your offense overall. So when I look at this team, I need the running backs to be better. I need that UConn transfer to be someone that is useful. And hopefully Jalen Berger can get his act together because, I know the offensive line wasn't good, but there's some good pieces on the offensive line this year. So I expect them to be better. All in all, everything is going to fall on Mel Tucker. If he has a year where they make the bowl and they look like they're improving, that would be a step up from where they are right now. Because if you look at overall what Michigan State has done, yeah, they had that one great year, but the rest has not been great. And this isn't the old Michigan State where they're confident, they're happy going to a bowl game. This is not the same Michigan State. You're not happy going to a bowl game. You're happy going to the upper tier bowl games. You're happy going to a New Year's Six bowl game. Like, this is what Michigan State has turned into because Mark D'Antonio raised the profile of this team. And they fell on lean years because of, D'Antonio kind of doing his own thing. And then Mel Tucker came in and he had that one great year where they went to a New Year's Six game. And that is like the expectation for the Michigan State Spartans fans because you look at Michigan State, it's been a better football program than a lot of football programs. So there's no excuse. There's literally no excuse. So Mel Tucker has to go to a bowl game this year. And I could see why all these writers, these national writers, are writing all this stuff about Mel Tucker being on the hot seat right now. He's not on the hot seat yet. He has a bad year. Yeah, he'll be on the hot seat because you absolutely need to win. This is Michigan State. This isn't Ball State. This isn't, Texas State. This is Michigan State. Michigan State holds a pretty big bar in the state of college football. So you, as Mel Tucker, need to look yourself in the mirror, make the adjustments. Don't act, uh, don't overreact to anything. Just play the game by game. It's going to start with Washington. That's going to be the big game for the Michigan State Spartans, and we'll see where they go from there. And we'll keep you entertained throughout the year from Michigan State, because if Michigan State goes in the hole, I will tell you right now, I will be going AWOL. And we are proud to announce that we are going to have a Michigan State podcast on Between the Whistles Detroit. There's obviously the Victors, which is a Michigan podcast. There's Bad Boys Revival, which is a Detroit Pistons podcast. There's Red Alert, which is a Red Wings podcast. Detroit Lions News podcast, which is Detroit Lions News. But we have Spartans on the Bank, and I'm proud to announce that Sparty Mike will be on the podcast with me, and we'll probably be releasing pretty soon. So I'm going to talk to him about that. But keep subscribed below. We will keep you entertained throughout the season. And if Michigan State starts having bad games, look for me to go AWOL. I'm Joe Chapp, and I'll talk to you in the next video.